It's Hurts. It's a deep ball. Looking for Devontae Smith. What a catch!
Aaron Rodgers officially is being traded to the New York Jets.
Pickett. Got his man open. Touchdown, George Pickens.
The Arizona Cardinals have released DeAndre Hopkins.
Wow. Don't call it a comeback.
NFL minicamps are back.
Oh, I love it because that means NFL games can't be too far behind. And to celebrate all of it, we've got an episode full of mini comebacks.
Plus, summertime is back, so we got some hot new topics on the checkdown to debate. Beach or pool, Fudgy Pop or King Kong. Shek, you and I are asking big questions this week. From Wondery, I'm Ryan Shazier.
Looking forward to all that, plus the big golf merger. I'm Dave Damashek.
And this is Don't Call It a Comeback.
Don't call it a comeback. I've been waiting on this moment my whole life. Can't call it a comeback. Everybody to your feet, make arenas rise. Yeah, I'm saying from the left to right, we get it on tonight. We do it all, but we don't back down. Just give me one shot, one chance, I'ma take it. Fixing up the game, but these records I keep on breaking.
Shek, what mini comebacks are we covering today?
Well, by definition, we have at minimum 32, right, 5-0? We'll start off with the Super Bowl runners-up, the Philadelphia Eagles. Do those Eagles have what it takes to make it back to the big game?
Win, lose, or draw, I always reflect on the things that I could have done better, things we could have done better to try and take that next step, and that'll be the same process that goes on now.
Also, can Aaron Rodgers bring Jets fans the ring they've been chasing since the moon landing, and he's been chasing for 13 years himself? And Coach Tomlin and the Steelers are looking to come back to the playoffs for the first time since Ben Roethlisberger hung them up. But that'll be tough to do in a loaded AFC North.
Able to seal him. Here's the pass. Oh, what a catch! Leaping into the air and pulling it down is T. Higgins.
It's Jackson. Oh my gosh, here he goes. He'll sprint. He's being chased by Howard. Looking behind. You can kiss him goodbye. Touchdown!
Plus, there's still free agents who aren't even in a minicamp yet, waiting to sign somewhere and flip next season on its head. For more on all these minicamp mini comebacks, we've got the host of The Lead, starting five, Philly native John Gonzales. Gonzo, welcome to the show. How are you, man?
Gentlemen, what an honor this is. It's good to be back talking to you, Shek, and Ryan to talk to you.
Thank you for joining us. So with you being a Philly fan and having that 76ers jersey in the background and, you know, all the heartbreak that you've been dealing with, what is the vibe in Philadelphia for another Super Bowl comeback run for the Eagles in minicamp right now?
The Eagles are the only bright spot right now. I really need to either replace that jersey behind me, which is a 76ers jersey given to me by the organization, either replace it or burn it in the backyard. I haven't decided. I haven't gotten over this past run. I probably won't. They keep duping me into believing that they're a team that can get out of the second round, and they never will. The Phillies aren't any good. They were good last year. I went to the World Series. It was very exciting. Now they're terrible again. So yeah, the Eagles are the lone bright spot, right? I mean, hope springs eternal in this part of summer where there's OTAs and they've got the team back together and they had a great draft. And Jalen Hurts was gangbusters last year, and their offense looked good, and Jason Kelsey's coming back. So, yeah, it's all we got right now.
By the way, you also did successfully plant a spy in Ron Hextall, the former Flyer, in the Penguins organization, and he broke their playoff streak. So at least you have that going for you. But where
I'll take it.
Yeah, where the Eagles are concerned, you were there to watch them hoist the Lombardi Trophy now,
yes,
a half dozen years or so ago. Almost got it done were it not for Jalen Hurts' fumble. For real, how do you reconcile the pox that is getting to the Super Bowl and losing it? How do the Eagles somehow defy the odds or the history that is in the 21st century? The team that finishes runner-up basically never sniffs the Super Bowl the following season.
It's a little loaded in Philadelphia, right? Because they did win it against Tom Brady with a backup quarterback in Minnesota, which, by the way, I did not want to go to that game. I went to that game, but my wife, who works for NFL Network, who Shek knows very well, was like, if you don't go, you're going to regret this the rest of your life. And I'm like, what sense does it make that we live in California? It's February. I'm going to go to Minnesota to watch Tom Brady just like throttle the backup quarterback. That doesn't sound like fun. And she said, you'll regret it I went and they won. So that takes a little bit of the sting out of this past one. I also went to this one, also as a fan. It was an incredible game. Yeah, I mean, like, just dispassionately and taking out the Eagles component from it. What a great game that was. What a fantastic Super Bowl. Yes, it ended in heartbreaking fashion for the Eagles, but had the Eagles not beaten the Patriots 5 years earlier, that would have been completely crushing, but it takes a lot of the sting out of it.
That's a feel good story. You know, that's what a Philly fan would say. So I completely understand that.
I might be in the minority there, Ryan. Like, a lot of people were really pissed off about it.
Okay. Now that sounds more like Philly fans. You know, I never hear them. I never hear them say anything good unless they're winning. So you've been around Jalen. You've been around Jalen Hurts since he first came around into the league. How much do you think he's matured since the moment he's been in the league to where he is now?
Oh, incredibly. I mean, just look at his glow up from last year, from the previous season, right? I mean, I wrote a story for Sports Illustrated about Hurts' ascendancy last year, because don't forget, before last season, there were a lot of questions about Jalen Hurts and whether he was going to be the quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. They lose in just like abject, depressing fashion to Tampa Bay and Tom Brady in the playoffs the previous season, right? In the first round. And people start going, is Jalen Hurts really the guy? Should Howie be looking at a quarterback in the draft coming up? People are talking about like who's out there on the free agent market that maybe he could have a quarterback battle with. And they decided to go into last season with Hurts as the main guy, but it was a big asterisk. It was a big, we're not really sure here. And then they hit the ground running, and like, they played that regular season. I know that there was a lot of doubters about Jalen Hurts and the Eagles and whether or not they were one of the best teams in the NFC or if they were doing it with smoke and mirrors or whatever, but he proved himself to be a legit MVP candidate before he got hurt, comes back, takes them to the Super Bowl. I mean, it's hard to ask anything more from a guy who hadn't had the same offensive coordinator since going back to high school. Last year was the first time he had a back-to-back offensive coordinator. So, and now he's going to have a new one again this season. So I think what he's done in a situation that's constantly changing is really impressive.
I really do think it's wild. Maybe it is the frog boiling in water in front of us, and maybe it's, at this point counts as old news, but I don't think we have fully celebrated what Hurts did. The arc of the 3 or 4 years from getting benched for 2. I know it's well covered, but I don't think we fully absorbed how far that guy has come. And yet, if you guys don't get a Lombardi in the next 2 or 3 years, I think people will start to point at, man, remember that fumble against the Chiefs? We should have won that game, and that was the high point of this little mini era. Let's move along then instead and move to another hard-boiled sports town, New York City, where I'm stunned by the overflowing optimism from Jets fans, where Aaron Rodgers, their new hero, is concerned. Everyone's aware that he hasn't won a Super Bowl himself. He is the one talking about, hey, that trophy Namath one's looking a little bored there. Hey, Aaron Rodgers, you haven't won one in 13 years either. Where do you come down on how far Rodgers can take the Jets this year?
We have a mutual friend, Dan Hansis from the NFL Network, who's a Jets fan, and he, like all Jets fans that I've encountered, are over the moon about this. But I think it's part of that, like, Jets fans have been broken for so long that they're looking for any kind of silver lining to be excited about. And look, Aaron Rodgers is a Hall of Fame quarterback. He has won a Super Bowl. Yes, it was a long time ago, but he's constantly in the mix. He's a multi-time MVP. He is also 39, but he's better than the alternative, right? Like, how bad have Jets quarterbacks been, including Zach Wilson, for time immemorial, right? It's been a long time since they've had a guy who I don't know, who was the last good quarterback? Vinny Testaverde? Like, Mark Sanchez had a half a good season and ran into some...
Chad Pennington was all right.
Geno Smith.
Yeah. So I get why they're excited, but I don't know. Call me crazy. It's been a long time since anything worked out for the Jets, so it's hard for me to imagine something working out for the Jets.
I happen to be with you on that, especially in a division with Allen and Tua. I think that Dolphins team's for real. I think expectation, people are setting themselves up for some vast disappointment, especially Aaron Rodgers coming off a down age 39 year. You think at age 40, what evidence is there that a guy elevates his game at that age?
Aaron Rodgers at the end of his career in New York, what could go wrong, right? I mean, he's going to have his priorities. Super dialed in.
New York fans are kind of like Philly fans. It's like they expect to win. And even like Pittsburgh fans, like we expect to win at all costs. And this is a situation where they expect to win, and they brought in everything that Aaron wanted them to bring in. But the one thing that nobody, talked about yet is the New York media. How do you think Aaron and the New York media would do? Because the media might be a little, more in your favor when you're in Green Bay. They don't care about you in New York. So how do you think he'll do in New York?
Yeah, this is a great question. As a member of the dastardly mainstream media, it could go both ways. Like Philly can be super difficult with the media, right? If you're not playing well, or if you're not giving me a quote or not talking to me or whatever, then, my poison pen comes out and I'm coming for you. But Aaron Rodgers is kind of a talker, right? So there's a world where Aaron Rodgers is, we like to say, fill in your notebook. If you fill my notebook, all of a sudden I'm going to be like a little bit easier on you. If you're giving me quotes and we're doing a little banter in the locker room and like I can get you on the side for a story, more times than not, we're going to go easier on you. So that could help mitigate if they don't play well, if he doesn't play well. But who knows? I mean, this could go the other way, right? I mean, there's a non-zero chance where both he and the Jets play well. And then like, we'll never hear the end of it. It'll be all Jets and all Aaron Rodgers everywhere all the time.
No doubt about that. And early on, at least, he's been savvy in how he's playing it and positive, and the good vibes go as long as the Jets don't lose 2 or 3 early on somewhere in September. I'm with you on that. Okay. Let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers now.
Sure.
Why is that funny to you?
No, I love this. I mean, I would have never expected you to bring this subject up.
Well,
so unlike you.
Consider it brought up, friend.
Yeah,
let's
please.
talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let me tell you something about you. Yin's got your Super Bowl run last year, but the Pittsburgh Steelers are the best team in the Keystone State. All right.
Not bad. Pretty good.
Well, thank you. I am a Yinzer for real, in fact. Okay, so last season, they, real bad first half of the season. Mm-hmm. Very a reason for optimism in the second half of the season. Do you think Tomlin can get this team back to the playoffs in what is a loaded AFC?
It's tough, right? Because like you said, it's loaded. I mean, although wasn't that the first season that they didn't have a winning record with him or
no, in fact, Tomlin got their winning record. They rallied from 2-7 to start the season to wind up 9-8.
So he always finishes 500 or better, right? I mean, he's like one of the best coaches that we've seen, certainly of this era, maybe of any era. I mean, he's really incredible what he can do with sometimes less than other teams have. I do wonder, though, because as you mentioned, the league is loaded, the division is loaded. How do you feel about, I mean, you know what? I'm interested to hear both of your response to what did you make of Roethlisberger's, like, I wasn't rooting for Kenny Pickett component?
I don't think people are paying attention if they haven't observed from Aaron Rodgers to Tom Brady to Peyton to Roethlisberger, Hall of Fame level quarterbacks in the 21st century who are all worth $100 million or more have egos. Yeah, that's right. Ben Roethlisberger wasn't rooting for his replacement because success for his replacement diminishes his shine. Of course, he has an ego about that. Of course, he wasn't rooting for the guy who replaced him. I asked about 10, 12 years ago, Brian Urlacher, right after he retired, do you think, are you rooting for the Bears now? He said, yeah, sure. I said, but not for the Super Bowl. He said, oh no, I'd be PO'd if they reached the Super Bowl without me. Of course, they're rooting against that guy. I mean, that's my answer to that, obviously.
So my answer to this one is I honestly respect the answer that he gave. And the reason I say that is because nowadays it's so hard for people to be real, be true, and to actually tell how they feel about a situation. Most people, if it's like, hey, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I was there for 20 years and I wasn't ready for somebody to come in and just replace me and people forget about me. Most people are going to be like, yeah, man, I wish you the best, and then talk to their wife and be like, man, I don't want this kid to succeed. So for him to actually go, tell him and say, hey, I want what's best for you, but I'm going to be honest. When you first got here, I didn't want you to succeed. And I think, to me, that's being honest. That's being truthful. And I feel like Kenny probably respects him more now than he probably ever would have. Kenny might be in the back of his head, but like, dang, that's crazy. I thought you would have wanted to bet. Like, I thought you would have wanted me to succeed. We both played for the Steelers. But he also has to know, like, man, if Ben's going to tell me something, I have to respect his word because he's being honest with me. And you don't get a lot of that nowadays because when you do say something the way you feel, people nowadays going to look at you and be like, man, Ben is a hater. It's not about being a hater. It's about just, this is the emotions that I'm dealing with. And a lot of people aren't willing to put that out there.
And by the way, the Steelers did kind of gently shove him out the door. So that working to the benefit of the Steelers probably made him a little red in the face initially. Ultimately, he realized, I'm better off I retired. I'm glad to be not doing what I have to do to be out on the gridiron anymore. But in the moment, I can understand that he probably had a chip on his shoulder about it.
It's funny too, because to Ryan's point, like, here he is being super candid. And as media members, especially, and fans too, but especially as media members, we are constantly saying, what do we want? Candor. We want you to open up to us. Tell us your innermost thoughts and feelings. Nobody ever does generally. But then when they do, we pounce and we're like, did you hear what he said about Kenny Pickett?
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, I thought it was a really revealing answer. But yeah, it's super hypocritical for us to do that.
Well, a guy who's been pretty outspoken for at least the last several months, if not the last year, was transparent about his interest in returning to Baltimore. The one-time MVP of the Ravens, kind of the face of the Ravens at this point, breakout superstar Lamar Jackson inks his deal with them, but now it feels very different. He made it clear he needed some pass catchers. Odell Beckham is there. Now Zay Flowers is as well. The problem is, it feels to me like the defense is diminished a bit. At the same time, the offense is being renovated to throw the ball around a little bit. Georgia's OC, Todd Monken, comes up there. What's your expectation for the Balt Birdies in 23?
Before I get to that, I just want to say, for a second there, we were talking about Big Ben and the Steelers, and then Shek, like an expert host, did you see that? You didn't even, the listeners didn't even notice the transition.
No,
did you see how smooth that was?
Yeah, no. They felt
really,
they're
really impressive.
They take it for granted because I am so.
Don't. I mean, what a professional. Yeah. I mean, look, again, the division's loaded, right? So if you put 4 teams in a hat and pick one out and told me they won, I wouldn't be surprised. I do wonder about the residual resentment there because things were not going well. Don't forget, before Lamar signs that deal, he's negotiating his contract basically on his own because he didn't have an agent. Maybe his mom was involved in whatever. And he requests a trade and it looks like he's out the door. And then all of a sudden he's sitting in his car doing an Instagram video saying, hey, I'm coming back for 5 years. And isn't this great? Okay. I want to see how that goes a little bit. I also am more dubious and skeptical about his pass catchers than clearly he is. You've got OBJ who didn't play last year. And then they drafted a kid and then they got another kid. And like, who's he throwing to? I mean, that is not an offense that has typically been built for the air. He said he wanted to throw for 6,000 yards. So he wants to set an NFL record. He's never thrown for about half that. Like, I guess good luck.
It is going to be a major mid-career adjustment, not unlike what Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant did, going from attack the rim guys to mid-range jump shooters. Yeah, that's basically what Lamar Jackson has to do at this point in his career. And, I'm not down on his potential to do it, but I do think he's going to have to carry even more of the day in terms of point totals because the defense is just not going to be what it has been for the last probably decade, legitimately, in Baltimore.
Yeah, I honestly think that the Ravens, they're going to have a decent year, but I think it's going to be, like you said, I think it's going to be a really big transition, with Malkin coming in, changing up the whole identity. They're changing up the whole identity of the team because their defense lost a lot of key pieces. They lost Calais, they lost Marcus Peters. I know they added a few pieces, but I feel like they're changing the whole identity of the team, and they were a run-first defensive style of team, and now they're going to be, hey, we're pass happy. We have these weapons that we believe in. And Lamar, he has that arm talent, but I still think it's going to be. I think this is a season for them to find out who they are instead of like, hey, we're coming in here and running the show. So there's a lot of talented free agents that's still waiting to join teams, John. And with the pending free agent decisions, who do you think makes the biggest impact to whatever team they're going to in this upcoming season?
Great question. Haven't fully studied the remaining free agent list. I will say this. There's a guy out there who's in the middle of becoming a minority owner out in Las Vegas who I still think, I know he keeps saying that he's super done. And I know all the reporting is that because of his interest and once he gets the peanut butter and the chocolate with the ownership, it's going to make him less likely to come back. I'm not buying any of this. He's so omnipresent in our lives. You're telling me that like they scuffle to start and all of a sudden Tom Brady's not like, I could still throw the ball a little bit.
I agree 100%.
I don't see it happening, but
I mean, Jimmy G's going to hold him off.
The getting the vapors from Brady's side about like, I have already said I'm retired. I don't understand why everybody can't get it through their head. Because of you, Tom. That's why. And Brett Favre before you. And the newfangled thing among starting quarterbacks in the NFL replacing heavyweight champs of the last century, which is retiring, then unretiring, then retiring again. That's why we think that. The reason Brady won't do it is because he's too smart to put himself behind that offensive line in Las Vegas. What I think might happen, though, what we're still getting used to in the NFL versus the other three sports, which we grew up with, trades in the middle of the season. Now we see them, relevant players going to contending teams. I think you could see Derrick Henry move. I wouldn't be surprised if the Giants don't get off to a great start, if they move Saquon Barkley. Those are the things that are intriguing to me in the new age of football. And you didn't see them as recently as 5-10 years ago. The Herschel Walker trade forever ago was anomalous. You never saw any relevant player getting moved during the season. I think one of those guys still is going to have something to say with a contending team.
I mean, I saw Ryan shaking his head at your predictions there, but I would as an Eagles fan, sure. Yeah. Trade Saquon. That'd be awesome. Good luck, Danny Dimes.
To me personally, I seen something on Twitter recently and it kind of scared me. And it was Dalvin Cook going to the Dolphins. And I was like, wow. I think that Dalvin Cook going to the Dolphins can be a very scary team because they're already a scary team. They're the fastest team in the league.
They're already fun, yeah.
Yeah, they're the fastest team in the league, and they're already fun. And if you give them somebody like Dalvin Cook who has the ability to do everything, if Dalvin Cook gets the ball enough, he could possibly be considered one of the best backs or the best back in the league that given year. So just giving them that type of guy on their team, I think would be crazy. But for free agents, I think that, D-Hop and Frank Clark, whatever team they go to is going to make a huge impact. I know Frank Clark, he's more of a playoff type of performer, but I wouldn't be surprised what type of impact that he makes or D-Hop. And I just don't want to see D-Hop go to the Chiefs.
The Hopkins one is the big one, right? I mean, everybody's waiting on that one.
Gonzo, a philosophical question for you. Now, we talked about the Jets fans. They've been out in the desert for decades and decades now. You've been satiated. You had a little meal back in 2017. You got to see a Lombardi and everything else. So you're a little less desperate than you were. Zeke Elliott, if he were the finishing piece for the Philadelphia Eagles, any moral conundrum going on in your Eagles fan head with that?
I might be a little rare on this one. Again, as a Philadelphian, I don't think this would be the typical Eagles fan response because everybody always thinks, okay, the Cowboys are the arch rival for the Eagles, and for the Giants and for the Commanders, which is the world's worst team name. I always thought growing up that the natural rival, and I always felt it too, when they would come to town, is the Giants. I mean, they're right up I-95. The city, Philadelphia has a massive inferiority complex to New York, but who cares about Dallas, right? I mean, I always thought that was sort of fabricated. So no, I would have no qualms. I don't know how much he has left. I don't actually believe that he would make them that much better at the running back position because they've got this committee and they've got a number of players that they can just cycle through. So, but yeah, I mean, if he actually had something to give, I would be fine with it. But I think that you would find that that's an unusual answer in Philadelphia. I think a lot of people would not welcome him with open arms.
I love that. That was illuminating for me that the Giants-Eagles rivalry is in fact the hottest one in that division. And you're absolutely right. We cannot allow it to continue that in our nation's capital, the commies are our football collective.
They should have stayed with football team. Football team was no frills and so bad it was good.
I want to ask you a Dave Damashek question. If the commies is a bad team, what is a 76er?
Well, I mean, it's tied to the revolution in 1776 and all that patriotism nonsense. And everybody's going to go see the Liberty Bell and Independence Hall and whatever. So they're playing off of all that. But yeah, sure, it's not an actual noun that we just made it up, really.
Hey, I'm just saying, the commanders are the ones who helped the revolution. You know what I'm saying?
It's just a bad, prefabricated. It feels like they got a cookie cutter and stamped it out. And in a weird way, right? So they go from the old name, which was terribly racist, to this placeholder name that again was so bad it was good, and so stripped down and so stupid, and it has this air of a soccer team, right? Where it's unlike anything else in American sports that they could have really marketed. And then they're like, no, let's just pick one of these out. They probably had a name contest and they picked the worst one and then they merchandised it. And yet another reason why Dan Snyder needs to hit the bricks forever.
What they need to do is they need to go big and say, hey, we know Justin Herbert, the Chargers are offering you a lot of money, but we'll name the team after you. The Washington Justins. Come on over.
I thought you were going to say the Herberts, but okay, sure.
Either way, you want to call them the Herbies? That's fine by me.
The Herbies.
Either way,
right.
Gonzo, dynamite time to catch up with you. We got to get you back in time for the NBA tip-off by the time October rolls around, if not before, here where you are with those aforementioned 76ers. Meantime, where can people find you?
Can hear us on Wondery's Starting Five podcast. We have a podcast Monday through Friday. Get it wherever you listen to your podcast. It's going to set you up for all the things you need to know that day. Quick hit podcast, super fun and informative. If I do say so myself, I recommend it.
I'm a fan of the podcast and the man behind it who we're talking to, and then the woman behind the man behind the podcast, Colleen Wolfe. Best to her. And thanks so much for the time today, Gonzo.
Couldn't do it without you and her.
Yeah, thank you, John.
Gentlemen, thank you for having me. What a pleasure.
One more time, great thanks to our guy Gonzo for joining us today. Next up for us, Shazier makes amends for last week's oversight on a summer edition of The Checkdown.
Don't call it a comeback.
Okay, time for some other comeback stories in the news we need to give a look at this week. This is The Checkdown. Shazier, on last week's Checkdown, we talked about our favorite summer movies. Now Shazier came into our production meeting and claimed that we needed to come back to this topic 7 days later. Shazier, I'll tee you up for a do-over. What's been the best movie of the summer so far?
I just saw Spider-Man Enter the Spider-Verse. This might be the best Spider-Man movie I've ever seen. Literally every single Spider-Man movie. And you got to think about how many Spider-Mans there are.
You're acting like that's a wild statement. Why, have there been good Spider-Man movies? There have been some decent ones. Not the Tobey Maguire ones, though, really, right? I hear this movie is awesome. Maybe the best superhero movie of all time.
You said I don't know about that one. I have to think about it a little bit. I might have to watch that again if it's the best superhero of all time, superhero movie of all time. But you can't say any of the Tom Holland Spider-Mans are bad. They're all good, so you can't say any of those are bad. And then, the last one, that was a wonderful movie. So to me, just this movie, it was just a wonderful movie. It was multiple times I was in the movie. I wanted to use the bathroom. I'm like, I'm not missing any parts of the movie. And then I don't even want to tell people any snippets of it because I want them to enjoy the whole movie themselves. So the one thing I got to say is that it's definitely the best movie of the summer by far. And I promise you Fast X is a good movie. Guardians of the Galaxy is a good movie. It's a lot of really good movies out there, but I'm going to have to go with Spider-Man.
I haven't heard anything but great reviews of the movie. I like this as a new way to gauge the quality of the movie. Is it good enough to make it so that Shazier doesn't have to go pee? That's pretty, I like that as a foundation that I think we can all relate to. Another thing with summer times, when you're not getting that AC on you, watching a movie, eating the popcorn, you can be outdoors at concerts, and those are making big comeback. I assume Yins didn't make it over to the Dead and Company show this week, a big traffic jam in Pittsburgh. There's Shazier, but are you looking forward to any shows this summer?
I know Taylor Swift is coming to Pittsburgh next week, which I'm going to be in Vegas while she's in Pittsburgh. So I'm going to unfortunately miss it. But at the end of the day, I don't know if I would have went, but I heard it's one of the greatest shows. And one of the crazy people that's part of the Don't Call It a Comeback said that she's one of the greatest performers. So, and and she is one of the greatest performers, but she said it's the greatest performance. So I'm going to have to just believe her on that one and just, watch it on YouTube or something. But I will have to probably say I'm going to go check out Ed Sheeran. I know he has a great concert, and I'm really looking forward to checking him out when he comes to Pittsburgh.
That's not one I was expecting to hear out of you. After you're denouncing the Swifties, you're turning around and going, Ed Sheeran?
I don't go in my car and be like, hey, I'm turning on Taylor Swift. But it's been times where I was like, hey, let me listen to Ed Sheeran Essentials. But if Drake has a concert coming out soon, 21 Savage, he have one coming out soon. J. Cole, I would definitely be there. But I'm not going to Rolling Loud or Coachella or anything like that. I heard Taylor Swift is awesome. I'm not paying, $12,000 to go to no concert. So that's the one I'm going to have to miss out on.
Quick answer. Don't think about it too much. Best live show you've seen.
I'm going to have to go with my guy, Drake. Nope. Yep. I've seen Drake multiple times. Yeah, it would have to be Drake.
Okay. Good answer. Good enough answer. If you ever get a chance to see Fishbone, best live band of all time, Tribe Called Quest, Rage Against the Machine, Allman Brothers. Let's move along then, 5-0, and let me set the scene for you. It's a hot summer day. You're down in Florida playing ball with the kids in the neighborhood when the ice cream truck rolls up. Ding, bling, 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 ding, 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 ding.
That's how your ice cream truck sounds?
How's it go? Like bling, 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 ding, 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 like that, right? You do it then. Tell me how it sounds.
I don't think it goes like that, but it's like
boopity boopity doop boop boop. No, not gonna. You can be a critic and sit on the sidelines, or you could do it yourself.
Yeah, movie critics. They criticize people all the time. They don't write movies.
Touche. All right, so you have the $2 in your pocket, enough to buy yourself one of the ice cream treats within that truck. Which one are you getting?
A bombsicle.
A bomb pop.
A bomb
pop. The red, white, and blue.
Bomb pop.
Blueberry, lemon, cherry, right?
Bomb pop. Bomb poppers are fire. My kids love the Spider-Man and the SpongeBob and stuff like that. But I'm getting a bomb pop. But if it was like we're just going to a regular ice cream shop, I'm getting me Oreo or Oreo. If they don't have Oreo, I'm going chocolate. But if it's an ice cream truck, I'm getting a bomb pop.
That's pretty mid, 5-0, in my opinion. I think the correct answers are strawberry shortcake sandwich, the ones that's got the strawberry crumbly things on the outside, a dreamsicle, the orange popsicle surrounding the vanilla ice cream hidden within, and then the cherry cone that's got the gumball at the bottom of it is your champion in my book.
Those all sound like things that I would eat on a regular basis, but I won't eat out of an ice cream truck. I would eat a strawberry shortcake as a strawberry shortcake.
I mean, the gumball, what a treat that is.
I would eat ice cream, but I don't like vanilla. And then, orange, but I don't like vanilla. And then I don't want to wait all the way until I'm finished with ice cream to get a gumball. So that's not my thing.
Great. So if you and I had grown up in the same neighborhood, we wouldn't have had any competition. That's nice. Both of us would be winners. You can have all the bomb pops you want. I'll have all the dreamsicles I want. Perfect. Now, it looks like the golfers who left the PGA Tour to go over to the LIV Tour are making a comeback, because there's a merger going down. 5-0, what do you think of the PGA's decision to take the LIV Tour's money?
So to me, it's always funny when somebody is criticizing you for what you're doing, but then they go back and look at you and you're like, hey, man, you're a genius. So that's pretty much anything in life. When you're trying to be different, when you're trying to do something that nobody else thinks is a great idea, they all call you crazy. But then after a while, they're like, oh, hold up. This makes a whole lot of sense. And I think that's the situation that the PGA got into. They was like, man, this doesn't make sense. This hurts the integrity of the game. We're losing some great players. Then they start seeing a lot of players in the LIV Tour come over here, be competitive in a lot of the major events, a lot of the master events, and even winning some of the events. And they were like, man, we need to make a decision to do what's best for golf. And I think that's what they end up doing. They end up finding out it's going to probably bring in the most money for the game of golf, if it's for PGA or if it's for Live. And it's probably, you get more eyes on it now. I think the biggest thing about sports is trying to get as many eyes on it and make as much money as possible when you're executives. And sometimes you have to kind of, bite your own ego. And I think that's what happened. They bit their own ego. The only thing I don't like is that they didn't inform the players when they were doing this, because, at the end of the day, if the other players knew about this, they probably would have left as well and, may have made some of that money themselves. But I think it's a great idea to merge the two companies.
I don't know that every billionaire who owns a major American sports franchise is a great person, but the washing, as it's been called, I mean, what happened over there and the washing that is required to cleanse the image is another matter and a different level altogether. It's gross stuff. I assume that this is owed to the PGA, probably their non-major events rating poorly on television or otherwise, and so they had to figure something out to make it right with their partners in terms of advertising and otherwise. That's why they did this. I am baffled about the average golf fan. Does it matter that much to you to see Brooks Koepka playing in the Memorial Cup tournament or whatever in these non-major events? That was a tune out if he wasn't playing in there. I find it all kind of gross, but I agree with you completely. There's a lot of hypocrisy, and it covers all the bases and all the parties, this side of Rory McIlroy at least. Either way, that's it for this episode of Don't Call It a Comeback.
Make sure you follow, rate, and review the show on wherever you're listening, and check us out on YouTube on the Wondery channel, and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any episodes. See you all next week.
Don't call it a comeback. I've been waiting on this moment my whole life. Can't call it a comeback. Everybody to your feet, make arenas rise. Yeah, I'm saying from the left to right, we get it on tonight. We do it all, but we don't back down. Just give me one shot, one chance, I'ma take it. Fixing up the game, but these records I keep on breaking.